Hello my friends, and welcome back to our little farm. We are kind of scrambling today because we just found out that our first frost is going to be coming in just a few days, which means this is our window to get out to the market garden to harvest everything that we can out, especially those frost-sensitive plants. So let's go gather up our food for the season. This is what we're going to be eating on for the season ahead, and we invite you to join us as we cook this food together through the Elliott Homestead cooking community.
I would like to invite you to join the Elliott Homestead cooking community at cook.theelliottHomestead.com. This is for home cooks out there who would love some new inspiration, ideas, and motivation to get going in the kitchen. Each month, I create 5 brand new recipes inspired by what is in season around our farm. But don't worry, you don't have to have a farm to enjoy this beautiful food. You can have these recipes delivered to you digitally or physically if you live within the United States. Recipes will range from entrees to side dishes to desserts, breads, vegetables, salads, everything in between. Then I'll guide you through the recipes with a long, in-depth cooking video, showing you new skills and encouraging you as you give these recipes a try in your own kitchen, whether you're cooking for yourself or you're cooking for a crowd. The Elliott Homestead cooking community is here to inspire and nourish your family. We're going to teach you to bake, to use sourdough, to try new ingredients, to really fall in love with good food again. Visit cook.theelliottHomestead.com for more information.
We recently brought our small herd of Katahdin sheep back from their summer pasture, so now they're here waiting for their next thing. We've got the chickens in their new chicken coop, which means they're not in my gardens anymore. So we have a lot to harvest. There's roosters, ducks, and lambs, but today we're going to focus on the vegetables, which primarily I'm thinking the peppers need to come out, the eggplant, the tomatillos, and the potatoes. It's going to be a lot of work, but luckily the weather is on our side, so, it's just work. Let's do it. I think we'll go ahead and start here with the peppers. Now, once a frost comes, these will just be goo. They go disgusting. So what I'm going to do is completely strip them of all the peppers, no matter what stage they are in the ripeness process, and we'll just sort that out in the kitchen later on. It always feels aggressive and a bit sad because these plants are full and beautiful, but in a couple of days they won't be. So you just have to do the hard thing and strip them bare. All right, the next vegetable that we need to harvest is this eggplant. Eggplant also really hates the cold. It's a Mediterranean plant, so as soon as that frost comes, this will be completely demolished. And eggplants are great because you can get them when they're really small, you can get them when they're really big. And what I like to do to store them is to cut them into slices and roast them, and then pack them into jars with vinegar and oil and spices. And then throughout the winter, you can just take out a few slices at a time. Really delicious. And there's a lot to get out of here. Look at this guy. It's a big one. There were a few vegetables that seemed to really like the no-dig system that we did, which means just putting down cardboard and then putting about 6 inches of compost on top and planting into that compost. Eggplant was one of those vegetables. The peppers did exceptionally well. So did the eggplant. And I don't know if it's just because of the rich soil, they've got all the food from the compost, but this is probably double the size of any eggplant I've ever grown. So next year, for sure, the eggplant will be in the no-dig garden. All right, the eggplant didn't take too long because luckily you're working with a very fat, beautiful fruit. But then we get to the tomatillo patch. Some of them are nice and big like this. They've burst at the bottom, which let you know they're ripe and ready. But most of them are pretty small. And that's just because of the weather that we've had. It hasn't been as hot as it is in the summer, which tomatillos like. So I'm gonna make an executive decision here. I'm gonna leave this tomatillo patch and move over to the potatoes because that's much more of a staple crop for us. And we really are running on a timeline here. We have to get this done today. So I would much rather get the potatoes out and make sure that that crop is accounted for than spend too much time picking, these small tomatillos. So I'm gonna leave them for now. And if we have time this afternoon, we'll circle back around to them, but we're gonna move on to the potatoes. All right, this is one of our main potato patches. And what's sad about this is that these potatoes could go for a lot longer. Usually they'll start to die back, and that's how you know they're kind of ready for harvest. But we really don't have a choice. We have to just get in here and yank them out at whatever size that they're at right now. I'm really unsure about what we're gonna find. Harvesting potatoes is never easy because it's just a lot of back breaking, bending over, and picking things up. But luckily, and even though this isn't a great harvest, it's still better than we had last year in this same plot. So kind of up this way in the bed, the potatoes were a lot smaller because the compost that we used was thinner. And then naturally, because this land is sort of tilted, the compost is thicker on this end of the bed and the potatoes are much, much bigger, which makes it a little bit more rewarding to put into the basket just when you're dealing with potatoes this size versus potatoes this size. And I'm not gonna blame the potatoes for this kind of not great year because we were having some problems with our well getting water up here and having enough pressure to do that because we had such a dry summer. So these potatoes weren't watered nearly as often as they should have been. So I really am thankful for any harvest. My guess is we'll get, well, I don't know, I shouldn't guess yet. We'll have to weigh them when we're done. But there's just a lot more digging to do before then, and I really wish I had a cappuccino right now. All right, well, it's certainly not our worst harvest ever. This took us about 2 hours to pull all these potatoes out, And I'm sure that we left some behind, but for now this is going to have to do because there's other things that we need to tend to inside. These are both storage potatoes. So what you see here is Yukon Gold, and then we also have some russets as well. So these potatoes will really store all through the winter. And to store them, I don't wash them. All I do is put them into these stackable crates. And I'll probably fill these about half full, and then they can sit right on top of each other. But before I do that, I need to go through and kind of sort the big potatoes from the smaller potatoes. So we got some really beautiful potatoes, and then we got some just little small guys like this. These ones we want to eat first. They don't have as much moisture, they won't store as long. So this is kind of one of those like butcher cuts that you really don't see in stores. I know you see new potatoes, but these are even smaller. So I kind of have a special plan for these down in the kitchen once we get all this food rounded up and get it down to the house. I need a tractor. I'm not going to carry this the whole way. Too heavy. Unfortunately, I did have to leave a few things behind, and I'm hoping that I can still squeeze in a little bit of time before this frost comes. Some of the vegetables will be fine once the frost comes, things like collard greens or kale or even our leeks, parsley. Those things will hold for quite a while. But the basil and tomatoes and okra still need my attention. Alas, this was all the energy that I had to give today. And, you know, all in all, it's a pretty good haul. So I'm gonna get this down into the root cellar and then we'll see what comes next.